buzz about tag team Thunder and Lightning. There's
Yeah.
definitely you guys were even before you were on TV, I knew about you. So how did that team start? Where'd you break in?
Well, we actually broke in at Steve Kern's school. Do you remember in Tampa he had a school there? I think it was off of Tyson Drive. And my best friend, actually, Clark Haynes, is who approached me and said, "Hey, I mean, I played football, did all the regular stuff, and we were both working in a gym at the time as trainers. And he said, "Hey, let's go down, to this, check out this wrestling thing." So we ended up going down to Steve Kern's school in Tampa and trained there with a lot of the Nasty Boys had just come out of there and they were like big stars in the WWF at the time. And then so we trained there and got into the IWF with Eddie Mansfield. There was a small league that Eddie
Sure.
Mansfield started in Orlando. And that was our really first kind of tag team stuff. And our very first match was actually TV. So imagine you're, young, you're green as can be, and your first match is a television taping. So we were really nervous, but that's where it kind of started way back then.
Jeff, it's so funny all the things you just said. Listen to this. So I broke in 92. My first match ever was TV for WWF. I was 18 years old and it was against Steve Kern.
Yeah, that's wild. Well, the good
Yeah.
thing is Steve was a consummate professional, so I'm sure he worked you through that match. But yeah, I mean, the regular audience doesn't really understand, I don't think, how much pressure, performance pressure. I think we were in the back like wanting to throw up, and we had kind of, limited ability as far as, getting out there and knowing how to really work a match, right? But we were just kind of
Yeah.
performing moves basically. But, it was a great experience, and to have that right away, I think in a way is probably a benefit, than I mean, we still did a lot of dark matches and not dark matches, but shows on the road, house shows and all that over time. But I remember our first match ever was a TV taping at with IWF.
Who was there in IWF as well? Was Kevin Kelly
Though
there?
the Long Riders were there, which was the Smoking
Smoking Guns?
Guns.
Yep.
Blackjack Mulligan came in. There was a guy Mondo, or I think it was Mondo Clean. He had a bald
Mon-
head,
sure.
kind of
Damien
a
Demento.
yeah, yeah. There was some really Van Dam, Rob Van Dam was there. There was a lot of good talent actually at that time in this little small kind of fledgling league that ended up being some big stars. But there was a lot of good talent there.
Had you get signed with
Godwins were there, I think, that they ended up being the Godwin brothers. I mean, I have to thank you really going back and testing my memory here because that's a long
right.
time ago. But it's a lot of good talent.
How great of a guys are the Godwins, huh?
Oh, I love
Two
those
two good
guys.
dudes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're awesome. How'd you get on WCW's radar?
So we were, obviously wrestling in the IWF, and we ended up being the tag team champions of the league. And I think they sent a scout out from WCW. I don't know if it's Jody Hamilton, but he came to one of our matches. And actually, it's a funny story because when we Dory Funk Jr. was from Ocala and Clark was from Ocala, so they kind of knew each other. And Dory had booked us for a tag league for All Japan. It was their All Japan tag team tournament. And we got booked on that. And that was really our kind of first big kind of breakout from the IWF. And then Jody came, I think it was Jody, but someone from WCW had come down and also said, "Hey, we're interested in you guys coming to WCW." And actually, we went to WCW. And I think Ole Anderson was a booker back then, maybe at that time in 93. And Ole said, and we said, "Look, we'd love to." Of course, we wanted to go to WCW, but we said, we have this commitment already with All Japan. He said, "Yeah, you guys go do your All Japan, and when you get done, come back, and we'll get you started in WCW." So that's really how it started. We went to that All Japan tournament first before we wound up in WCW.
What was the WCW schedule like back then?
It was they were running two towns actually. They had like an A town and a B town back then, and so we actually went to the power plant. This is another fun story, but we went to the power plant early. So Jody Hamilton was running that, Pez Watley and Sarge, Mike Winter, and some of those guys like Ole and Arn and Blackjack ended up down there, but this was early on. And so, you know, we were the tag team champions. So we kind of, you know, this was not the correct scenario for us, but we thought, hey, we're the champs. We shouldn't be going to some developmental training school. We're ready to, you know, kind of, but we didn't know anything really, but we thought we
Right.
knew a lot. So we were not happy about going to this camp. But in hindsight, it was great that we got a chance to do it because we learned so much at that school with Sarge and Jody and Pez and those guys. And then we were able to have a lot of these really big WCW stars that were former WWF stars come through, Terry Taylor, you know, and all these guys to come through and kind of help us develop then. So it ended up being a blessing. By the time we were just not, you know, not all that crazy about going down there and training, but it was a great experience.
Were you on the road for the house shows and TV or
Yeah,
just
yeah, we
TVs?
were doing house shows then, kind of wrestling, and we were fortunate enough to wrestle some good tag teams. You know, the Orndorff and Roma and the Harlem Heat and Bobby Eaton, and I don't know who Bobby was tagging with at the time, but they had a tag team. So we did a lot of tag matches and really, you know, got a chance to get on the road there and do some loops. And it was really, you know, good for our ability to kind of learn the business.
Was it Bobby and Steve Kern?
I don't know if it was Steve, maybe. I think who it was it Bobby Eaton? He's tagging with maybe who was he tagging with?
William Regal?
Yeah, maybe Steve.
Yeah.
Um, you know, they gave Bobby a lot of different partners. He was so good, right? So I mean, he was I really liked Bobby Eaton, and he was a great mentor for me to learn the business. And one of those guys that was really kind to everybody, like, you know, would say, "Hey, man, do this, do that. You should try this. You should try that." You know, as you know, in the professional wrestling business, it's a lot of nepotism, and there's a lot of kind of you're kind of taught to just protect yourself and push yourself and worry about, you know, yourself. And Bobby wasn't like that. He was very much a team guy and was like, "Hey, you know, let me help you with something." So to this day, I appreciated you know, him for doing that.